the circumstances that we find ourselves in doesn't determine who we are.
Everybody had the same need. Everybody could identify with each other. And there was a strong sense of unity. We were all fighting for the same thing. And that was just overwhelming for me.
We saw a need, Hori. We need to be the voice. If our voices fails us, our bodies will speak on our behalf.
Because after all, it is about people. It is about you. And as long as we don't speak up, they will continue to make laws for themselves.
My name is Lindelo Ngumalo. I am the Women's Rights Manager at ActionAid South Africa. I can say the last 6 years have been quite poignant. One was a Safe Cities campaign that I think was started in around 2014. The Safe Cities campaign advocated for safer public spaces for women. So it spoke about public safety in parks and public transport. Part of that campaign success was presenting to the Minister of Transport a memorandum speaking about basically demanding safety for women in taxis, in buses, in public transportation, as well as in bus stops in all of those spaces. I'll speak about ActionAid's involvement in the Total Shutdown March in 2018, where we marched to Parliament. We were absolutely integral to the coordination and to the collaboration of that taking place. I'll speak to 2019's March to Sandton Shutdown, where we were part of the organization. We were one of the leading organizations, instrumental in that march. And what we've taken from those moments was there was suddenly an awareness around the transportation system and what is needed in order for safety to be provided for women. It's still an ongoing battle, but the recognition that comes from transport and other service providers, you can now hear Ministry of Transport, you can hear even taxi owners and drivers speaking about we have safe taxis, speaking about we must have lights, speaking about making sure that they're protecting the women that they transport. Not to say that everything is perfect, but that awareness was something that wasn't there before. And it's something that we continue to fight with other organizations and other movements towards. The Sandton shutdown, the Total Shutdown March was integral to the development of the National Strategic Plan on Gender-Based Violence and Femicide that the President launched this year in April.
We've heard the calls of the women of our country for action and for justice. Working together, government and civil society formations have already made much progress towards establishing and resourcing a national machinery to coordinate our campaign against gender-based violence. We are reviewing laws on domestic violence and sexual offenses to prioritize the needs and interests of survivors.
That document was drafted with civil society and with government, and we were instrumental in those conversations. And so when we look at the work that comes out of there, we recognize our own work as well as those of the communities, the movements and other organizations that we've been standing with for the last decade on issues of gender-based violence. We look at the March to Sandton. This was absolutely integral in bringing business to the conversation. Before that, bringing business to the conversation, business felt like, this is not really our in, it's a thing, it's a social justice thing, it's a civil society thing, it's a government thing. And we were standing there to say, you are benefiting from the gains that come from the lives that are lost in GBV. You're gaining from that. Also, you're part of the community, you're part of the society, you're also part of the problem. How do you become part of the solution? And so if I just look at those three things, very recently we've just had the review of certain gender-based violence bills, and ActionAid was one of the organizations that placed a submission around some of those amendments that need to be changed and need to be shifted to ensure that the provisions that exist within the current legislation fully provides for the support of survivors and also strengthens the response to GBV in the country.
The very same mining houses cannot be able to absorb the youth in as far as employment. They cannot be able to absorb all those workers that were thrown out of these mining companies. And today it is the very same country that celebrates the Human Rights Day without looking back at the conditions of the very same poverty-stricken communities, without looking back at the conditions that leads to the unemployed people to go into the underground workings in search of survival means. So when our government criminalizes artisanal miners who try to escape poverty and unemployment, what do we say as a country? Do we say they must not have anything to eat? Do we say it is correct for the government to continue criminalizing them? When did unemployment became a basic human right?
Some of the highlights that I've experienced have been, for example, the work that's being done by the mining team on social audits, where women speak about the challenges that they face living in mining communities and the challenges that are not being addressed by government or mining companies in terms of opportunities for work, in terms of safety of water, in terms of health risks, in terms of opportunities for their children, in terms of schools. And so some of those highlights has been seeing people actually stand up to say, this is our community, this is what we want to see here.
interviewer wangibuza ukuthi sisi uyazi ukuthi kwenziwa kanjani ukuthi uthole umsebenzi ngathi obviously mina ngizile ne-CV yami uthi ushilo ukuthi i-CV yami it is good but hayi sisi kumele uvule iy'nyawo ngamtshela ngathi mina lowo msebenzi lowo ngiyawubonga kambe ngihambe ngihlale ekhaya so i-sexual harassment kithi thina bomama emsebenzini inkulu even nakulaba sebasebenza bayamitha emsebenzini ofisha bamithisa bobaba bamitha emsebenzini.
Ngizoya emayini ngizogcoka i-jumpsuit kodwa makushisa underground indoda yakhona ukukhumula isale phansi igcokile cause uvukushisa mina as umama ngizokwenza njani lokho bese sekufika kule nto leyo ukuthi kuliswana ne-gender equality abomama babhekelela because underground kuyashisa mangizothi ngiyacomplaina bazothi bowufunani underground ungumama of which lobo yilungelo lami lokuthi ngisebenze nami as umama.
Uma imayini idubula lamakhaya ethu ayavalwa avalwe intuthu yemayini bayekade basikhipha sagcina singumphakathi sastrayika kulelinye elikhaya nje ngikhuluma makhelwane wethu ngamaseko kuleli khaya namuhla nawungathi uyefika akanayo i-dining room yakhe yawa yakhula yafohloza zonke emasofa akhe onke wasala nayinye vele leli ehlala umuntu munye kulelo khaya akunasofa namuhla abantu ngendaba yemayini solo ubathi uyahamba ushonale abamsizi ngalutho waya emayini wa-reporta ukuthi iyawa leli bathi hayi sidubula kancane indlu yawa yabiya phakathi kwathi ngenhlanhla mntwanami yawa emini kube yawa ndihamba amasokhwalele ngobe bantwana bahlala e-dining room babukela i-TV abe sangcwaba kulelo khaya.
After going through the social audit together with the team that we had from ActionAid today, I'm really disappointed. But to be honest with you, it's something that I knew about and I expected it to come out like this. So yeah, the audit itself, I believe it has done quite a good job for us as the community, and we trust that together with ActionAid, Makua, ourselves as the communities directly affected by these mining projects going on on our land, yeah, I believe we will at least get to a point where at least the community members will be somehow be helped after all these facts have been disclosed.
To some people who lack the knowledge about this beautiful nature, lies a powerful hate in their hearts, a hate that can be toxic to the whole nation, a hate that can brutally kill an innocent human being, a hate that can depart the same family. Why? Tell me something I don't know. Why? Allow my voice to speak upon all forces of the universe, for there is no longer white oppression that shall seize you. Free yourself, little bit. Flock high like the sky. Flock high above the sea. Flock high, because there is no dark shadow that shall seize you.
Pride is but our own struggling of homosexuality in a space where we unite together and work out our own.
I think ActionAid has a long history, even before my time, of addressing issues of gender-based violence, and then specifically violence against women, against girls, and also against the LGBTQI community. I think that when you are working with vulnerable people, more often than not, you'll find that they face lots of situations of violence against them. And so I don't know that actually when actually it started, their intention was to focus on violence. But as time has gone on, there's no way that you can work with women, you can work with children, you can work in schools, you can work in communities and not address issues of violence, particularly in our country. And so over the years, ActionAid has done multiple programs. I can start with the RAW program, right? Which is a Rainbow Activist Alliance working with lesbian women. One of the things that ActionAid was supporting was the fight against violence, specifically hate crimes that were faced by lesbian women where they were being murdered and raped.
I'm afraid of getting raped. I am afraid of getting raped and not being able to report it to the police station. I'm afraid of finally getting to the police station and not getting help. I am afraid of getting to the police station and you're promised help, but instead you are just bombarded with questions and you are humiliated. You are victimized. I think that is what I'm most afraid of.
There is such a high rate of hate crimes in our country, particularly in the black townships. This was important for us so that the cases of black lesbian women or LGBTI persons are taken seriously, because these cases are never taken seriously, right? Just because you're gay or you're a lesbian, that case is kind of pushed out in court or in the criminal justice system.
Really, there are many cases that just go unreported. There are cases that get reported, but nothing really gets done.
RAA is a project of Forum for the Empowerment of Women, so the relationship is that FEW is the mother and RAA is the baby of FEW, right? So this project was started so that we create safe spaces for black lesbian women in the 15 townships that we work in, right? So groups were already established in these 15 townships, so we were just there as aid and support.
RA to me is personal. It really exposed me to the politics, to human rights. It exposed me to feminism. It exposed me to myself. We have been having some killings. We've been having a lot of bloodshed, and we felt like it was enough. And we had a march where we were just raising awareness, letting the community know of our existence. We also were educating the community that we are here, but if you really want to know who we are, instead of just labeling us and giving us names, you can just come to us and understand really who we are.
Post 1994, when we had the new constitution that was that stipulates that people can live as freely as possible. The constitution is beautiful on paper, but in reality, it's not.
In the police stations, you will find that there are help desks there, but then that's all that it really is. It is just a desk. There's really no one there that understands deep problems that we face. There's the person there, most of the time, the person that's manning that desk is homophobic.
The kind of support that we give to RAA members was that we've developed a case monitoring and a court monitoring form so that they can use in their daily lives. So before then, we've had intensive trainings with the RAA groups on criminal justice system.
In Soweto, there was recently a killing of one of our own who went by the name Damai Moloi. That was personal. When one of our own gets raped and killed like that, it is devastating, because it really hits home, especially when you're also one of the people who live with this sickness called homosexuality, or being transgender, or being bisexual.
It took a very long time for us to actually get the judgment. We are, however, happy with the judgment of 2 life sentences for rape and murder.
We're fighting for the future to be bright, for our kids, for other people's kids, you know. I think, and I really feel and believe that in the future, our kids won't have to face the same injustices that we do. Our children will live in societies and communities where they are understood for who they are, because there's really a diversity of people. There's literally a rainbow nation of people in the whole world.
We have a situation where the girl, the mother and the grandmother are part of our circles. And what we've discovered is that the grandmother, the mother and the girl has been sexually abused or raped. So if we say that trauma is generational, and that it actually kind of affects the next generation, what are the kinds of trauma that the girl, besides her own trauma, what are the kinds of trauma that the girl sits with in the group?
Holistic. I can speak about the I Define Me program. This was a program that was implemented in the Western Cape, looking at over 500 girls over a 2-3 year period, and trying to address issues of helping the girls find hope, find freedom, and getting them away from a life of violence that they're surrounded in, living in areas that are really inundated by gang-related violence.
Nobody wants to feel limitless. You shouldn't limit yourself. You have your own personality, you have your own uniqueness, and you have your own advantages. You should feel worthy of yourself. You know you're beautiful. Do you know you're worth it? And that even through your challenges that you face on a daily basis, worth it's in depth.
Trinity sound.
Hustle hard every day for the come up. Not feeling hard, but I pray for the come up. The come up, come up.
So the project is funded by Comic Relief through ActionAid South Africa, and the project is implemented in Cape Town. It's called I Define Me, and we work with girls between 14 and 21 who's been affected by violence, whether it's gang violence or gender-based violence. That's the girls we work with. We also work with young mothers between the age of 14 and 21 who's been affected by violence. And in Cape Town, on the Cape Flats in particular, every girl is affected by violence, especially gang violence. The project has 3 modules. We do personal development work. There's a module called The World We Live In. Then there's a module called organizing. So how do we organize around the issues that currently face us? We run 8 circles in 2 communities. The one community is Bonteheuwel, and in Bonteheuwel we have a partner called the Joint Peace Forum, and the other community is Beacon Valley, and the partner there is Women for Change.
When the I Define Me project came about, we actually went around to schools and said, this is what we are going to do, this is what we expect to do, and this is about empowering our young girls. Because a lot of the girls at the high schools especially, they have like boyfriends, and some of these boyfriends are gangsters. And what do? They use the girls to carry the guns for them, to carry their drugs into the school, because some of the boyfriends are actually the drug dealers at school. And when we interviewed the girls, and then we also learned that because Bonteheuwel is quite a big area, and then there are 3 high schools, but unfortunately, if there is a certain gang in a particular area in Bonteheuwel, then they identify you as being one of those gang members, even though you do not belong to a gang. With the girls, some of them maybe even have gang members as family. Maybe a brother is a gang member, or father or the uncle, you don't know. But what we are trying to teach them, you don't have to go their route. You don't have to follow them. There are better things out there.
When you support women, undoubtedly you end up supporting the people that she supports. And that is always the children, community, and other family members, including men. ActionAid has found it important to work alongside women for that very reason. Even if you look at statistics of poverty, if you look at statistics of health and diseases, if you look at statistics of, like we were talking earlier, violence, if you look at the effect on the environment, access to resources, access to land, as a result of patriarchy and the way that systems and communities are set up, women find themselves at the short end of the stick. And so this is why ActionAid has made a conscious decision to say, we want to walk alongside women. We want to find a way to balance the scales, or even just find the scale. In some cases, women are so far off that they're not even on the scale, to ensure that they're living their lives, being able to enjoy the rights to freedom, rights to access to resources and opportunities, as well as freedom from violence as well.
ActionAid ukufika kwawo bekufika abantwana abade beqashwe yibona besebenza bebhalisa abantwana amakhadi akade hamba eyaphesheya ukube beze bazi isibalo salezi ingane zala eCranham ukuthi zingaki bekwazi ukuzichasa ngoba kuze kube khona lendlu kungaleyo nxa yabantwana kade behambisa amakhadi abo bebhalisa amagama behamba eyaphesheya.
ActionAid ufike la esikoleni sethu sasembalane eCranham, wafike wasakhela iklasi lesikole kade singenalo. Ingane zethu iminyene esikoleni emaklasini ziqinene zingene ngamaklasi ngama3 kodwa ActionAid sakhela isikole. Kakhulukazi siyajabula singomama sithola ActionAid uyakwazi ukusupporta kakhulu endaweni yakithi. Siyabonga kakhulu singomama.
Sinenkukhu sathola uxhaso oluvela kwa-ActionAid. Lezi nkukhu zethu zinamaqanda, zikhona futhi nezingazala amaqanda edayisayo zinyama ezizodwa eceleni. Aba-ActionAid basitshela ukuthi mawukuthi ngesikhathi sidayisa ikhiqiza lezi nkukhu, makuthi kunomuzi osokole endaweni singakwazi ukuthi siwuxhase noma sibanike noma i-tray lamaqanda ngelinye ilanga sikwazi ukusiza labo nje abanhlwempu. ActionAid ngicela ukuthi aqhubekele phambili nokuba noncedo emphakathini njengoba ekwazi ukuthi esiqoqe siwumphakathi esitshela ukuthi mawukuthi khona esikudingayo singakhuluma siba ama-group sisho ukuthi singathanda ukuba yini sikwenze lokho efuna ukuba ukuthi sibe yikona. Ngithi u-ActionAid awuqhubekele phambili nalokho.
My name is Edwin Abafanich Kondera. I'm an educator here at Shimeza Primary School. ActionAid has assisted us a lot. About 5 to 6 years back, they approached us as a school here. We accepted them. We started that relationship. I think they gave us garden tools so that we can plant some vegetables here. After that, they came back with some uniforms. We identified some children who have got shortages of uniform, so they provide us with uniforms every year. They also brought some cleaning materials at our schools. They gave us soaps, they gave us brooms, they gave us everything, even digging materials. These ActionAid people, they're supporting a lot here at our school.
I'm Nengu Kurotompani Poshia. I live at Ronongwe. I'm 20 years old. I'm a ActionAid beneficiary since I was doing my primary level at Shimeza Primary School. Okay, when we talk about farmers, ActionAid has helped them a lot. When we look at them, many of them, they are women. Those old grannies, like some of them, they have lots of children at home. Some of them, they don't have husband. So by taking those seeds from ActionAid, they can plant something so that their kids can eat. After planting those things, they can go sell them, and then they found something to buy, maybe meat, to buy bread for their kids. And then that make their kids not to suffer, not to go to school with empty stomach. Sometimes you can find out that we don't have water for 2 to 3 weeks, but because of ActionAid, sometimes we cannot struggle that much because they provide us with tanks, taps. And then the other thing that ActionAid help us as a community, they help those children that suffer, those children who come from poor families. Some of the children, they do not have uniform to go to school, but ActionAid provide them with uniform so that they can be like other children who came from rich families, so that in the class we can be equal. There is no need for us to say, hey, you don't have a uniform. ActionAid make us to be equal in class so that we can take educational seriously, not focusing on what other people are suffering from. Thank you. I would like to say to ActionAid, thank you very much. You made us people amongst people. If it was not for you, we won't know where we will be by now. Maybe we will have been struggling by many things, but because of ActionAid, we are so grateful as a community. We are so grateful as children. Just look at us now. We are who we are because of you. Today we can stand in front of people because of you. We used to be shy, but now we are no longer shy. You found us as toddlers, but now we are women and men who can stand and say, ActionAid, thank you very much.